Currently, this is the flagship headphone from Moondrop. So hello and welcome to Aftersound Review, and this is my review for Moondrop Venice. That costs around $600 and using planar driver. And just like usual, I will break down this review from the build, fit, frequency response, sound, and comparison. The structure of the headband and also ear cups all made of CNC aviation grade aluminum alloy, and they do feel great even though they are this big. They're quite big for me, but they have the weight of them, it's a little bit on the heavy side, but I wouldn't say this is the heaviest. I mean, not like the some Odyssey headphones that I've ever tried. This is more lighter than them, but it's still a little bit heavy. It's terms of headphone, but thankfully you can feel that it is definitely made of good material. And also the headband here is a self-adjusting headband and it's covered in leather. Very nice quality. But the ear pads here, I'm not sure whether this is a real leather or not. I think this is leather, and they're quite big. Also, they are perforated inside and they are angled, even though the angle is rather not significant, but they are angled headphone ear pad. You could see that this part is more thick than this part. Also, the ear caps itself doesn't really swivel a lot. It just goes like this, so not a lot of movement for the ear cap itself. While the connectors, it's 3.5 millimeters connectors. And the strange thing here, they actually provide two kind of cables. The single-ended cable that feels much more, I would say, poor in quality. It's covered in cloth, in fabric. This is the single-ended one, and you do get a 3.5 millimeter to 6.3 millimeter single-ended jack. And they also give you this much better looking cables with 4.4 balance connector at the end. So my criticism is it doesn't feel kind of efficient. At least for me, it's really a better option to just give this cable, because this cable is definitely feels much more better and better built than the single-ended cable, and just give us a 4.4 balance to 3.5 or 6.3 single-ended connection. That will be much more efficient, I think, because when I'm testing them, of course I never tried this cable because it doesn't simply feels good, and also this one feels much better both in my eyes, and also when I'm using them, this is more flexible. Let's talk about comfort, because like I said, they are self-adjusting headphone here. Just put them on top of your head. I'd like to share you with one of my experience here, that I'm using eyeglass that is a little bit far to here. So when I'm using this headphone, because the ear cups is actually quite big, when I'm using this eyeglass, there are some parts on the back that doesn't really cover my head. So when I'm using them, it is more proper this way because it's completely cover my skin here and on the back. So maybe it's just a little precaution for those who are also using glasses like me. And other than that, I feel that the weight distribution is fairly good. I can wear them for hours without any complaint about the weight. And also the padding is also very soft, and yeah, I simply could wear them. But for me, it's not the most stable headphone. So when I'm shaking my head like this or like this, the position can be changed a bit, so it's not really grabbing my head. The pressure is not really a lot here, but that could be a good thing too, because I have never felt a lot of pressure in here and here. I could simply wear them for hours. It's just not really stable when I'm banging or shaking my head. Now let's talk about the frequency response here. I will borrow frequency response from Super Review that for me exactly shows what I'm hearing from this headphone. This headphone simply could be categorized as neutral bright. It's mostly flat on the bass side, and to the upper mid-range it's a little bit subdued maybe compared to the neutral target. But after that, there's some peaks around mid-treble and upper treble area, making this headphone can be categorized as neutral with slight boost on the upper ends, making it neutral bright for some people. But this headphone definitely have a good clarity and good balance for a lot of music and a lot of genre. I really like it. And even though it's flat in the bass, well, the flatness, the thing is, when you're using headphones and they are completely different. In headphones, you could feel more vibration through your cheeks and to your skin, so it does give a more reverb kind of physical thing, making this headphone have a good sub-bass rumbling. Then now let's talk about the bass from this headphone. That simply said, yeah, it's really flat. It's not exciting, but it's just not boosted in any way. It's not really exciting in kind of, if you're hearing to EDMs, it doesn't give you a lot of bass punch and bass thickness. But in terms of clarity, sub-bass, decay, and texture, you can actually feel them. So they are not light in bass. You could feel the bass rumbling, you could feel the bass movement there, but it's not simply for bass head. But for my orchestral music or some pop music that have a lot of mid bass or a lot of sub bass, this headphone can show that. So it's a really honest bass, I would say. If the music have good mid bass, it can show some thickness here and there. If the music EDMs have good sub bass slam, it can also show a sub bass slam. So for me, actually, I really like this kind of bass. It's an accurate bass, I would say. It's very well controlled, fast, but also very honest. Now, regarding the mid-range of this headphone, I would say that it is very balanced. It's very balanced for a lot of female and male vocal, but it's somehow colored with that mid-treble and upper treble picks that makes somehow in some badly recorded music, it can highlight some S or ch pronunciation, making them sound a little bit sibilant there. But trust me when I say, because it has a big ear cup and big physicality, when you hear sibilant from this headphone, at least if you have tried big headphones before, the sibilance is not as heard as I hear in IMs, I would say, because they are kind of far. The physicality, they're kind of far, but you can hear some extra crispiness and extra sibilance there. But it's not super bad, I would say. It's just a little bit, and it also gives coloration to the mid-range, making the sound quite dry but very clear in a lot of way. So when I'm hearing some vocalists, it is very clear, it is very open with a lot of clarity. But if the recording is not really smooth, you can definitely find some pick here and there, but it's not to the point that I feel that this headphone is spicy. It's just honest in terms of recording that way. And also in terms of music, when I'm hearing instrumentals, when I'm hearing piano and guitars, it's simply similar sensation with female and male vocal. It's really well balanced. You can feel the weight of the notes in those piano, but it's just a little bit colored with that extra airiness up there, making the piano, even though it has good weight on it, it somehow feels kind of airy. But nevertheless, I would say that I actually like that, but I just wish that the mid treble and upper treble could be a little bit tamed down a bit. Now, regarding the high frequency of this headphone, honestly, this is maybe my least favorite part of this headphone, because you can see there's a dip in present region around 5 kHz, and after that there's a raise around mid treble and also upper treble area. So it's not a linear treble response, and it does give strange peaks here and there, making some, for example, when I'm hearing cymbals, it doesn't really show up the initial crash of the cymbal itself, but rather the sparkle and the remnants of the treble itself. So when I'm hearing cymbals, it's supposed to be like that, but in this headphone it's more like, it's not giving the initial crash impact, but only the almost the sizzling end of the crash of the cymbal itself, and also gives some metallic edge to some instrumentals like violin for me. But in terms of clarity and extension, yeah, it's definitely good. It's just for me not really linear or well balanced enough, at least for my preference. Now, in terms of technical performance, what can I say about this headphone? The problem is, honestly, I'm just gonna be honest with you, that I haven't reviewed a lot of headphones, so I could only say, compared to the Edition XS from Hi-Fi Man, this headphone is less three-dimensional. The Edition XS somehow have a more not wider, it has a taller field in terms of soundstage, so it feels kind of taller here and there. It has better depth and better height, but in terms of width and also more spherical image in terms of soundstage and imaging, I find that the Venus is more three-dimensional and more to my preference. It's just a little bit wider compared to the Hi-Fi Man Edition XS. And also in terms of clarity, I do think that in the mid-range and also treble department, this headphone feels a little bit clearer compared to the Edition XS. That's how what I could say about this headphone. So it's pretty good, especially if I'm comparing them with, Edition XS is already a good headphone, but for me this is a little bit better. Now I'm gonna compare them directly with the Edition XS. Simply, they only have $100 difference. So, just like the frequency response show, that also shows what I hear from these two headphones. The Edition XS feels more V-shaped for me. It has somehow more bloomier bass. I wouldn't say that the both of them are a bass headphone. It just feels the rumble and decay, also that I feel more in the Edition XS, but it's a little bit tighter in the Venus. Also, the mid-range itself, there's a little bit of dip in the Edition XS, and after that more aggressive raise in the upper mid-range, giving it more shouty experience in terms of vocal. So it's more thin, but it's also more bloomier in the bass region, so it's making a more V-shaped experience. And also it has somehow a harsher treble up there, but honestly they are not really different in terms of treble, at least with my experience. It's just the Edition XS feels more V-shaped and not as balanced as this Venus. And if you ask me which one that I prefer, it is obvious. If I have the money, $500, I would simply save more to get $600 and just buy this Venus. It is simply more balanced. The vocal, especially the vocal area, I feel that the Venus represents more balanced female and male vocals, and the Edition XS is just more thin and a little bit shouty for me. Now, the interesting thing here, I have told some people before that in terms of headphone tonality, I really like the Sundara. Even I like Sundara better than the Edition XS, and this headphone feels even more like a proper upgrade from Sundara. Instead of going up to the Edition XS, I would say that just like the frequency response show, the Sundara, it is somehow more similar to the Venus. Just the Sundara have more proper ear gain, and for me still Sundara is more, I would say it is more neutral overall. But in terms of overall clarity, it's just this Venus is definitely a win over the Sundara, and honestly the difference is not that much. It's just more tamer in terms of upper mid-range. So for some people that are sensitive to upper mid-range shoutiness, this Venus even is a more saver choice. But in terms of upper treble region, I would say that I do pick some more picks in the upper treble region from this headphone more than the Sundara. So it's a little bit more spicy up there, but it definitely has more clarity. Is it worth the upgrade? For me, Sundara costs around $300 and this headphone that costs twice that. For me, it's a worst upgrade because you almost get for me, even though it's not exactly the same, but somehow there's a similar feeling. Upgrading from Sundara rather than to the Hi-Fi Man Edition XS to this Moondrop Venus, it is more at least makes sense for me. It's more makes sense, and also it gets better clarity overall. So what can I say about this Venus at the end? Well, honestly, I have tried the Moondrop Void and I really didn't like it. It somehow sounds very mushy and fuzzy, doesn't show a really good technical. It's just safely tuned headphone without technical, I would say. But this definitely changed my mind about what can Moondrop do with headphones. At least for a neutral bright people who are searching for neutral bright headphones that have a good technically for $600. For me, it even beats some great headphone makers like the Hi-Fi Mat at only plus around $100 from Edition XS. For me, this is a more balanced option out there. So good job, Moondrop. And that's all I could say about this Moondrop Venice. And thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye bye.